Okay? And it's not wise and it's foolish sometimes. But this guy, he just saw Jesus and he said, look, I'm going to follow you. I want to follow you. And Jesus said, you don't know what you're saying. You don't know what you're asking. I don't even have anywhere to go. I have nowhere to lay my head. I'm the king. I'm Jesus, and I have nowhere to lay my head. Some of us are like this first guy. Verse 59, to another, Jesus says, follow me. But he said, Lord, let me first go bury my father. And Jesus said to him, leave the dead to bury their own dead, but as for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of God. Now Jesus is making the request, follow me. This guy's father has just died. I mean, that's pretty reasonable. Hey, Jesus, I mean, you understand. My dad just died. Let me go bury him, and then I'm going to come with you. Then I'll give my life to you. And Jesus says, no, let the dead bury their own dead. In the Old Testament, if you did not bury your dead relatives after there was a week-long time where they would sit and they'd do spices and all these things and ceremonially and all this stuff, if you did not bury them, you could be put to death. And now, Jesus says, come with me. And the reason he's saying this, he's not being mean. He's not trying to break this guy's spirit or to make light of a death in a family. But he's giving an immediacy that the new has come. In the Old Testament, they looked forward to Jesus. They looked forward to the Messiah. And Jesus is now saying, the new is here. There's some kind of immediacy in following Christ. And that's what he's trying to tell this guy that, look, it's very important. Not in so many words, but it's very important. If you decide to follow Christ, you need to follow Christ. Okay? You don't need to jack around and do other stuff like so many people are doing. You need to walk the walk. If it's something that you're going to claim to live your life by, then you need to do it. You need to get busy doing it. Verse 61, yet another said, I will follow you, Lord, but let me first say farewell to those at my home. Lord, I want to come with you. I want to be with you, but let me say bye to my peeps. They're all sitting home. They're eating dinner right now. I'll just stop in and say bye, and then I'll come with you wherever you want me to go. Then I'll do it. I think it's an excuse. You may disagree. But again, if you decide to do something, if you decide to be a follower of Christ, and what I'm about to say may be pretty hard, and it may shake your world a little bit, but he has to come before your family. Your commitment to God has to come before your commitment to your family. I love my wife Lauren to death. There is nothing I wouldn't do for her. There is nothing I wouldn't do for her. But as much as I love her, she comes second in my life to God. It's a lesson that this guy was learning. You have to either be all in or all out. All in or all out. In nearly 8,000 verses of the New Testament, Jesus never once called somebody to follow him 50-50. Look at verse 62. He said, no one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. Strong words. Strong words. But also good words too. It's a good call to some people who are playing around with their faith and who are doing one thing and saying one thing, and then their life looks totally different. Darrell Bach is a commentator, and he wrote 2-volume, 2,800-page deal on Luke. He said this. He said, the cost of discipleship needs attention as one turns to mission. Disciples, or to us Christians, Christ followers, must place Jesus in the kingdom first. Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be granted to you. You have to place Jesus first. Disciples must recognize that they will be distanced from the world by their discipleship. And that family matters may suffer inattention in comparison to their discipleship. Relative to each other, God comes before family. Disciples must not look back from their commitment to Jesus. It is a constant commitment, and I love that. It is a constant commitment. Worship to Christ is not for the first 20 minutes on a Thursday night or the first part of a worship service on Sunday. Worship to Christ is a lifestyle. Worship to Christ is a lifestyle. It is a way of life, and it takes a constant commitment to do that, and it will be hard, and it will not be popular, but it is so worth it. Last week in Romans 6, we talked a lot about being dead to sin and alive to Christ, and that's one of the most important things you need to realize. And I think that's the biggest key to hypocrisy. because we don't trust that and we don't believe that. And so we go and we look for things at different places in our lives. We have God, but in some way, he's kind of become like a side dish on our meal. You ever go to Saltgrass? It's one of my favorite places. I love Saltgrass. And you get, I don't know what you get, but usually I get a steak, I get a baked potato all the way, I get a side salad, and I get green beans on the side. They're very good. Now, the green beans are very good, and then you get this big steak. The steak gets its own plate. Green beans are very good. I'm not kidding you, they're unbelievably good, but they are a side dish. The steak is where it's at. The steak is where it's at. Nothing beats a medium rare New York strip. Nothing. And somehow in our lives, if we're honest, Christ, the church, whatever you call it in your life, has become a side dish. And everything else has kind of become our main meal. Yeah, it's there. The green beans are there and they're good. But if you don't finish them, it's okay. You have a steak. And some of us in our lives, we have taken Christ and we've pushed him to the side. And we've said, you know what? There's all this other stuff. I have my friends. I have this. I have that. And when I need Christ, I'll bring him. I'll pull him over. Maybe I'll take a few bites and I'll push it back. That's dangerous. And if we don't realize that he is the main part of our life and he is the first part of our life, we will always be looking for something else. And we will always be acting in a way that's hypocritical. And our talk will be where it stops. And people will look at us and they'll hear one thing and they'll see something completely different. These verses I'm about to read, they may describe a lot of us in the room. I know it describes me. And that's why I want to read them. And they're hard. Romans 7, verse 15. Paul says, I do not understand my own actions. For I do what I want. I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Talking about sin and whatever it is for you in your life. No, if I do what I do not want, I agree with the law that it is good. So now it is no longer I do it, but sin that dwells within me. Verse 18. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is in my flesh. For I have the desire to do what is right, but not the ability to carry it out. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing. Now, if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I who do it, but the sin that dwells in me. Verse 21, so I find it to be a law that when I want to do what is right, evil lies close behind. Anybody, can you resonate with that? I can. For I delight in the law of God in my inner being, but I see my members of another law waging war against the law of my mind and making me captive to the law of sin that dwells in my members. Remember last week, the last part of Romans 6, verses 12 through 14, we talked about having a plan. And Paul says something very simple there. He says, don't present your members to sin, your members being your body. What you're doing, if you know you're about to screw up, don't put yourself in that situation, right? If you don't like steak, don't go to Saltgrass. It's really easy, all right?